Okay, any doubts, Bhagiraj and Ravali, before continuing with the today's session?
No, Venkat.
You, Ravali?
No, Venkat.
Okay.
No, Venkat.
Oh, okay, fine. Today we will start with the sandbox directory structure. So in Abinitio, we will be having a project name and under the project name we will be having multiple folders. So far we discussed like a graph is saved like dot extension is dot mp and the record format is dot dml, and whenever you save the graph a dot ksh will get generated, that extension, and transformations will be saved as dot xf4, and we have one more is dot dvc file, database configuration file. So where this database configuration file will be saved. So like this we have multiple folder structures in the sandbox directory structure. So now we will be discussing each of the directory structure. Why do we require it? We have like db folder, dml, np, and xf4, run directory. That is source directory. Research directory. SQL directory. So like this multiple directories will be there. You go to any of the project, this directory structure should be default. We cannot change the name of these directory structures. So what kind of the files you are going to place in DB directory? It connects to the database, like the database configuration files. Directory called bin directory. And all the record formats, whatever so far we discussed it, all the record formats has to be saved DML directory, and the graphs to be saved in MP directory. And along with this, we have a concept of plans in Abinitio. So if you are designing any of the plans, that could be saved in under the plans directory. The transformations has to be saved under XF4 directory, and automatically whatever the graph you have saved it after developing and you have given a name and saved it in the MP directory, on the same name a caches will get generated and saved under run directory. And we do have a resources, so we can generate the resources or we can create the resources for this. So it's like when one of the process is running, and you have to make sure that all the resources has to be utilized by that process. The reason is you have to make sure that the other process should not be running on the same time. So in such a case, we can create the resources and allocate all the resources to either of the one process which is started earlier, so that the other process will not be kicked off, and we can make sure in such a way. Or else it's like something like a dependency as well. And even Abinitio supports that as part of these resources. And we have a concept of preset that we are going to discuss it. I will let you know what is a preset, and whenever you save any of the presets, that could be saved under a preset directory. And the SQLs, whatever you are going to return when connected to the database, all those SQLs to be placed under bin directory. And the CSS can be placed over the TXT files or any of the CSV files, those kind of the files to be placed in the bin directory. So here I said like two types of CSV files. So one cache file has to be placed under run directory, and here also I said cache files can be placed under bin directory. Then in such a case, what kind of the cache files we have to place in bin directory? Can you identify anything? What kind of the files? What kind of cache files we
Mm.
need to place it?
Wrapper scripts.
Yes, exactly. So whatever the wrapper scripts or any of the scripts which we have written it can be placed in the bin directories. So, do you have any questions on each of this directory at high level, whatever so far we discussed?
Uh, can you explain the plan once, plan and resource, how you use this?
Plans are nothing but like so far whatever the graphs you have developed, and just to make sure that the order of the execution of each of the graph has to be done on successful of one process. Then all these graphs to be created on the process of the plan, and we can create a piece set on top of the plan and can execute a piece set or directly a plan. So it's just an order of the execution of all the graphs in whatever the way you require it. That is a plan. And the resource is like,
Okay.
let's say you are loading the data into one of the table, and at the same time the any of the other process should not run or load the data into the table of the same table which the process which is kicked off earlier. After completion of that process only other process should run. I have 10 processes which are loading into table 1, same table. So I kicked off let's say process 5, and I have to make sure that any of the other process 1 to 4 and 6 to 10 should not be ran, even though if it gets started also, it should be in waiting state. Then in such a process we will create the resources and allocate the resources. So internally Abhinisho will take care of by utilizing these resources and make sure that the other process will not be running it. So that is called a resource.
Mm.
So the advantage of the resources is will not provide a deadlock for you.
Yeah, okay. Suppose like while checking out, I mean from EME, I will get like lock, right, on graph.
No, 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 no. That is
Like
something.
no one can use this.
That is something different.
Yeah. So here also same process, like but process is running. In that case, other process should not run.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And this preset and plan are interrelated, right? You're saying?
Preset is different concept and plan is different concept, but we can create a preset on top of the plan as well. How are you creating a preset for MP? The same way we can create it.
Okay.
Okay. And any other questions?
Can you show me examples of plan, if possible?
I don't have this it actually,
Hmm. Okay.
because we cannot create in this kind of the version for plans and all.
Okay.
Okay. And this is the default directory structure. So let's say this project name is a private project. So any of the project, all these directory structures will be there. So if this is a private project, then in such a case, any of the public projects which we already developed, we will be including these projects under the private project. So public project one, how many projects you want? All those public projects can be included. And n number of public projects can be included. And after that, the directory structure should come. So that is the standard we have to follow. I cannot we can change the order of these public projects and the directory structures, but make sure that all public projects whatever we have developed should come immediately after this private project, and then the directory structure should maintain it. So this is one of the standard. And so what is the advantage of adding these public projects into a private project is, let's say what already there is a one graph which was developed by other team or any person or our team only, but this graph and the objects belongs to that has to be utilized in this private project. Then you don't need to develop another object for that. You just include a public object and that can be utilized in your private project. So that is the advantage of the public project. So how can let's say you are building one of the object or a graph or any of the transformation which is generic and can be utilized across all your clients. Then in such a case you have to include that object into most public project. So in your project, all the across all the projects, don't get confused. Like if I take it city, there are multiple projects for the city client, and the terminology where we are using also a project. So I will use private project and public projects, the terminology whenever I wanted to go ahead with the Abinitio projects. So let's say in your project, you are developing one of the object which can be utilized across your project. Then include that object into the public project so that anyone which wanted to utilize that easily can be utilized. And if you can chill down this public project again, the same directory structure you will be able to see that. So this is one of the directory structures we have it for each of the project, and each of the private project will be added with n number of the public projects. And the structure we follow is like the public projects will be containing the DMLs and the graphs, and the private project in the private project we create a preset for the graph which are there in the public projects. So this is again one of the standards which we have to follow it. So soon I will come to you what is a preset and all, then we will discuss about that more. And coming to this check-in checkout process, so if we are doing this process in the GD, That is so easy. Just right click on the object. So far whatever the GDA I have shown you, there it contains only like components it is showing, but in the real time along with the components, the same the left side we are able to see the components, so that can be dragged to the right side also, but in real time most of the times we follow on the right side the component organizer or like components whatever you are seeing here, and the sandbox structure also. So along with the components you can able to see a structure of the sandbox. However, the directory structure was present in the Unix directory, the same structure you can able to access it from the GDE as well. So that is so easy that you can perform any of the operation, like you want to check in, so easy, and you want to check out, you want to log, whatever you want to do you can do it there. But same thing if I wanted to do without GDE, so there will be a commands for that. So first time, let's say I have built one of the object and I have checked in for one of the requirement. I completed the whole requirement and the testing is completed and moved it to production. Now on top of this a new requirement comes. So let's say I was on leave and you guys have to pick up this task. Then in such a case you have to identify on which project you are supposed to work. It's a public project or a private project. Most of the cases it's a private project, and which is common objects. If you are touching it, then you have to touch the public projects. So which private project you have to work it, and on what objects you have to work. So definitely in such a case this private project will not be there in your sandbox because I have developed it the first time. So what you are supposed to do is, anyhow I will be checking in, so that objects all related to that private project will be present in the EME, a technical repository. So you have to check out that. So that can be done in the GDE as well as from the backend as well. So you have to check out the private project along with all the public projects which are related to this, which are included to this private project. So let's say you have to work on one of the graph. After checkout from the EME to your sandbox or the local area, you have to work on the graph. The first thing you have to do while for working on this graph is you have to lock the object. Without locking the object we cannot do the modifications. So on the GDE itself there will be a lock button. One second. Okay. So once you check out any of the objects before editing any of the content on that object, the first thing you have to make sure is you have to log that object. So if you're doing this in the GDE, again, it's so simple that how I'm selecting each of the buttons here. Similarly, there will be a lock button. So just select on that. So once you selected that, a lock will be applied on that object. The lock will be applied on that object on the EME, not on your sandbox. So as I said, like for each project, each private project or any of the public projects, n number of sandboxes can be have, but the lock will not be applied on the sandbox object. The lock has to be applied on the EME. And once you check out into the sandbox or your local area, the latest version of the object will be checked out by default. So I have checked in and then you have checked out. So for whatever the latest, only one version of the object is there, and EME will preserve all the versions of all the objects. So far only one version is there. I have checked in and you have checked out that object. And before editing the graph or any of the object, you have logged it. And let's say you have logged it and did the modifications and you have checked in. The process gets completed once you checked in. So in your sandbox, you're the ones who have developed it. So the latest code will be there. And in the technical repository, both the versions will be available. So once you updated the code in your sandbox, only the latest version is there. Whatever the checked out code will not be there. Means the whatever version I have been checked in and you have checked out, that version of the code will not be there because in the same path of the same object you have modified it. So the latest version of the object will be there in your sandbox, and at the same time once you modified and checked in the code to the technical repository, the latest version from your sandbox will be checked in, and EME will contain both the versions of the objects which I have checked in and you have checked in. So in such a case, if you after I come back from the vacation, if I log into the GDE and see all of the objects on my sandbox, there will be an yellow star on each of the object which you have modified and checked in. It says that out of date with EME, means the version I have in my sandbox and the version it has in the EME is a different. I have version 1, you made it version 2 and checked in. So this is also a simple question in the interviews they will ask you. When you will see out of date with EME. So whenever the sandbox version and the EME version is not matching, the sandbox has the lesser version than the EME, then you will see an out of date with EME version. So as I said, from the GDE everything is so easy. It's a check-in process or a checkout process or a locking mechanism. Everything is so simple. Everything you have to select one button or select and right click on any of the object, select check-in, and just follow the process. It will be listed with a couple of screens. You have to just select next and do check-in. So it is so simple. But if you wanted to do the same thing from the backend, I mean like from the Unix environment where the cooperating system has been installed, you cannot execute all these things in any of the Unix environment. There should be a cooperating system which should get installed before using these commands. If you're doing the same, if you wanted to perform the same functionality from the backend how you're doing in the from the GDE, like check-in, checkout, locking, definitely there should be a cooperating system, otherwise we cannot perform it. So where the cooperating system has been installed, if you wanted to do a check-in, these commands are called as aid commands. So what is this aid in the sense? Why they named it as aid? Can you identify? Can you guess why they named it as aid? generally Abinitio we call it as AI. So or is a repository. So Abinitio repository commands. So that is why they named it as air commands. In general, if you wanted to write also Abinitio, just we will say write like AI. It's mean to Abinitio. So in such a process, to check in, we will be writing a command like a project import command. So a project import is equivalent to the check-in whatever you will be doing from the GDE. So you have to specify the project path, that is whether it's a public project or a private project. You have to specify public or private project path here, and there is a keyword hyphen base dir and the sandbox path. And what is the object you are going to check in, that should be specified. Hyphen files and the file name. Let's say here I want to check in an MP. So in such a case, the file name will be like MP and sample graph.mp, that can be given. So make a note that this command is for checking a project import, project path hyphen base or sandbox path hyphen files and the file name.
Venkat,
Yeah, Bhagiraj.
these Unix commands will work on this. For example, I want to, check out the all the files with the mp.mp.
Okay.
So I can give hyphen file start.mp. Will it work?
Hyphen file store.mp.
Yeah, like Unix. In
Yes.
Unix, if you want to,
Commands also it will work.
it will work now.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I never tried by doing this store.mp, but suspecting definitely it will work because Unix commands also it will work.
Okay.
Generally, most of the times we give or like a specific object name. Checkout, we don't give a specific object name, but we will give directly a project name itself, so that all objects will get checked out. And
Okay.
specific to
So
one
here
object,
also, if you can give only project name,
pardon?
then it
Yeah,
will
yeah,
check in all. Okay.
yeah, yeah. Tell me.
If you can give only the project name here, project path,
Okay.
then it will do check in for all.
Yes,
Okay.
and it should be logged, or else if it is a new object, then only it will do the check-in. Whichever it's not logged cannot be
Okay.
checked in.
Okay.
And that's not the best practice to for checking actually.
Okay.
And if I give you the graph name here
Mm.
without giving any options, so will the graph will be checked in, or do you get any errors? You have any idea, Bakrash? Instead of this highlighted part, let's say I have given like slash mp slash sample.mp. Here I have given like this. So in such a case, the graph will be checked in, or will you be getting any errors, or how what will happen?
So you're giving this base directory path and your product directory path, right?
Yes. So yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think it will. I hope it will work, man.
Okay. So in a graph is again one object. So in a graph, it is independent, or will it be there any of the objects again?
Mm, Maybe start and end script should be there.
No,
Before
not
defining
that.
boolean.
Not that one. So to run the graph, what are the minimum things you require it? Definitely, do we require transformation and DML, right?
Yeah, except for yes.
So in such a case, let's say I have used the files in this graph. So far we discussed the directory structure of the project. So the DML is placed under the DML directory structure, and XF4 is placed under XF4 directory structure. And I have included those files which are saved under those directory structures. I have included those files in this graph. I have not embedded the content of the DML, or the transformation is not embedded in the graph. I have used those files where it exactly present. Then can we do this, Sheki? Will it be successful?
Mm, no. Think.
Okay, it will get successful. The graph will be checked in, but you will get a dependency analysis errors. So now we are going to discuss what is a dependency analysis. The reason is, whatever the objects you are creating it. So let's say in your graph, a simple graph, I have an input file, reformat component, and output file. It's just a simple transform.mp. This is, and for this transformation on the reformat component, I have like t1.xf4, which got placed under the xf4 directory, and one dml is there under dml directory. So in this graph, I have included these two files. So first time I have built it all these three graphs, three objects, the graph, a dml, and the xf4. So when you check in the graph, and there are two files, that is input file and the output file. So whenever you check in the graph for the first time, it will create a logical datasets in the EME, saying that from which location the file is reading, and from into which location the file is writing, and what are the fields we have available on this file. Everything will be registered in the EME. So this creates a logical datasets, and the dependency analysis will be done. The reason is like, we were into technical, we can analyze it, and sometimes the typicality we have, when the typicality is there in the project, it's very difficult even for the developer to do the analysis or the impact analysis. In such a case, we will be having like a metadata hub, we call it as, and most of the times the business users or non-technical guys can be used to do the dependency analysis, or to identify the process or the flow how it is going. So that is a so simple way. And if you are not maintaining the dependency analysis, that tool is nothing. It's no use of that. So that is the reason the dependency analysis is the most typical part. And we have to, whenever you do any of the check-in, we have to make sure that there will not be any dependency analysis. If you're getting any errors, then definitely I will suggest don't check in. That's not very, it's not a good practice, it's so bad practice. We will be having a check option, ignore dependency analysis. Once you tick that, a check-in option will get enabled from the GD. If you are doing it, then a check-in will happen, but the dependency analysis at the EME will be a breakage. Definitely we should not be doing, and someday definitely again that will come to us, and it's very hard to identify the reasons on such a case. So this is one example I wanted to give when you will get a dependency analysis error. So these objects are present in the EME, the DML and the XFO? No. And we were using this in the graph. Then in such a case, the input file and the output file, the logical data set has been created, and from the input file, from the field 1 to the reformat, the whatever the XO4 or the DML you are using it's not present in the EME. Then in such a case, how the mapping, a logical mapping relationship will get established? It will not be. It will say that the object not found, the DML and the XF4, and the dependency analysis errors will be there. And but you're doing it from the back end, so it's like a forcible check option. You do a check-in, so the graph will be checked in, but the dependency analysis errors will be there. So to resolve this, first the most inner object has to be, which does not have any dependency, has to be checked in. So in this case, you have to check in the DML and the XF4 first, and then you do a check-in of the graph. Then everything will get succeeded without any issues or the errors. So is it clear?
Yeah.
Ravali? For you, like the terminology could be completely new because Bulgarian is already working. So I just wanted to make sure that you are understanding completely.
Yeah, I'm trying to follow. I mean, it's new, but I'm trying to follow.
Yes, yes, yeah. So everything is clear, or you have any confusion or the doubts?
No, right now it's good.
Okay, fine. And one more thing, here I said like you have to check in the DML and the XFO. So in such a case, instead of giving the graph name for the first time, do you give slash DML and the DML name first time and checking, and second command will be dot x slash XFO slash XFO name dot XFO. Then will you give this command? What is the process you follow? So in such a case, let's say my graph is so big. I have 100 components and 50 XORs are there and 45 DMLs are there. Do I need to check in each of the object of the XORs and the DMLs for 9500 times? Then I need to check in this MP. No, you check in the graph only. Just give the option like hyphen find required files. So this option will take care of what all the objects you have included.
Venkat, your voice is breaking.
Hello, hello.
Venkat, your voice is breaking. Hello.
Is it? Hello. Still are you facing
Yeah,
same?
Venkat, it's fine now.
It's fine.
No,
Okay.
no, it's fine now.
Okay. So did you get why do we use this, or do I need to repeat it?
Yeah, please repeat it.
Okay, so as I said, like in sample case, we have one DML and one XF4. So if I just write a command so far, then definitely dependency analysis errors will come. So what I said is you need to do a check-in of the most not dependent jobs. In such a case, I need to check in the DML first and the XF4 for then, or any of the case which is not dependent on each other has to be checked in. Then the graph should be checked in. Do you follow that mechanism or some other different? In such a case, again example I have given is like the most complexity graph I have developed, which has like hundreds of components, and the DMLs and XFRs are also close to the 100 objects we have it. In such a case, I cannot check in each of the DML and each of the XFR multiple times. So there should be some easy way to do this. So I will be giving the graph name as it is, and this option will be given find required files. So whenever you are checking the graph, what all the files you are using on this graph or the objects, automatically it will get finded, and what are it required the objects and will checked in first, and then the graph will be checked in. So by using this command, you will not get a dependency analysis errors again. So is it clear?
Okay. Yeah, Venkat.
Okay.
Venkat, one thing.
Yeah.
For example, I have already checked in one graph and I have checked out that I
Okay.
have done modifications.
Okay.
I have done modifications in graph as well as DML as well as XFR.
Okay.
So now if I directly, check in the graph,
Okay.
will be an issue because already I have DMLs and XFRs
So what changes
present
you
in
have
this,
done?
right?
Yes, yes, I got it. What changes you have done on the DML and the XFO? So on the existing
I
code,
may
whatever it
include
has,
new fields as
pardon?
means in DML I may have entered new fields,
Then also
new
it
field
will get.
names or something.
Then it will get, because the field it will not be identified. The object can
Hmm.
be identified, but the fields are not identified. So in such a case, from the input file, let's say for first time whenever you design the graph, 10 fields are there, and the
Hmm.
process got changed. Now the client is sending another five more fields. So you have changed the DML
Hmm.
and you have not checked in, and the graph is checking in. Then
Okay.
also you will receive an errors.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And okay. And oh, one question I have you, Ravali. So far, whatever the concepts we discussed on the Abinitio, and already you have an
Yeah.
experience on Informatica. So do you feel like any of the features which Informatica is providing and not Abinitio?
Um, Not really, I guess. But trust me, Informatica is much easier than Abinitio.
Okay.
It is because I don't know, the graphs and all this terminology. It's like completely new to me.
Okay.
But I think pretty much we have everything. Like whatever is there in Informatica, we have pretty much the same thing. But it's just that the terminology and the concepts and the way you use the graphs and everything, it's a little different.
Okay. But in Informatica, we have to swap to multiple tools, right? It's not everything you do on one tool.
I mean, no, we have like three different things. One is we develop the graph. I mean, there is no graph concept. We call it as mapping.
Yes, yes.
So for that mapping, we use a designer, and the properties of the designer or the mapping or whatever will give that in another tool called Workflow Manager, from where we will execute that mapping as actually.
Okay.
And again, to monitor this mapping, like if it's running fine or if there are any errors, or if you want to see how many records are loaded or anything, we have another tool called Monitor.
Okay. But just to
So yeah,
develop
we have
the
to.
mapping and to run it, you have to swap to three multiple tools, right?
Yeah.
Then in such a case, Abinitio is good, right? You can do everything in one GD.
Nah, Informatica is much colorful. Abnisho is all bland. I don't like it actually.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe I got used to that or something. But when I start, I mean, I actually work on this when I have like a good hands-on on Ab initio. I might like this, but as of now, I still like Informatica.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Understood. So is everything we have it in Abinitio? You mean to say?
Yes, pretty much.
Okay. Just wanted to find out because you have much experience in Informatica and I have on Abinitio. I wanted to find out that because I don't have experience on Informatica. Okay.
Oh,
Venkat,
okay.
this
So yeah, pretty much it covers
pa-
everything, I guess.
Okay. Bograj, you are telling
the
something?
parallelisms are not there in informatics. The parallelisms are not there in informatics, I think.
Three types of parallelisms. Doesn't
I
support.
mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not like we have whatever. It's not like whatever we have it in Abinitio. We can do parallelism, but not directly like in Abinitio.
Mhm.
But three types of the parallelisms what we are getting here or supporting in Informatica.
No, we do. It supports.
Okay, 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 okay. And before going to the checkout next comment, and as I said, like first time I worked on requirement one, and the second requirement you have taken care and you have checked in. So what I said after coming from vacation, when I logged into the GD and see the objects which you have checked in, so there will be a like a symbol which shows on yellow color. So what is the, if I take my cursor to that symbol, what it shows?
Someone has modified the graphs and checked in.
Yes, yes,
So you don't have the latest version.
yes, yes. So it's like out of date with EME.
Yeah.
So warning will be shown. It's like out of date with EME, it will be shown. So again, a new requirement comes on top of that. So now I need to work on that. So can I log that object directly?
Means you need to check out the latest version, right? But you
Yes,
don't have the latest version.
yes, yes. So at any cost, whenever you want to modify any of the object, then definitely the version should be synced with the EME. You have to check out the latest version and then only you can able to log it. Otherwise we cannot do that. I have only version 1 and you have checked out the version 1 and you made the changes and then you checked in back. So you made version 2 in the EME. Version 1 is also available, which I was checked in, and version 2 you have checked in. But in your sandbox you have the latest version equivalent to the EME, but in my sandbox I have only version 1. So in such a case, there is a difference in the version in my sandbox on the EME, which is the older version. So it will give out of date with EME. And if I wanted to work on this, I cannot lock the version which I have in my sandbox. Definitely, I have to check out the objects from the EME into my sandbox. Then only I can able to lock it. So is it clear?
Yeah.
Okay. So if it is clear, I have one question for you. You, Ravali, is it clear?
Yeah, Venkat.
The process is clear, right? So when you have to lock it, when how can you check in, and when you have to check out, all these three concepts.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question is like, so far whatever we discussed, like let's say the requirement I have worked and I have couple of times I checked in. Let's say 3 times I have checked in version 1, 2 and 3 for one requirement only, and this requirement has went to production. But you, let's say testing environment, we will take it up. So while sending to the testing environment, we will send only the latest version. I will not be sending all the versions. Okay, because already I may be having some
Right.
effects on version 1 and version 2. So that is the reason I have made it version 2 and version 3. Okay, so after finalizing the whole development, and I have checked in the version 3, and this version 3 is sent it to the testing environment. And I went to vacation, a new requirement comes on top of this. So you guys have done changes, and while going for unit testing you have faced some couple of issues. So before unit testings, let's say you have checked in the graph, so version 4 is there, and while performing the unit test, some errors you found and you have corrected the code again, and then you have checked in version 5. So version 1, 2, 3 belongs to the requirement 1, and 4 and 5 or belongs to the requirement 2. And now in the UAT environment we have version 3. So this version 3 is for requirement 1. So let's say while doing the testing by the testing people on the testing environment, the code has failed. and after we do the analysis found out that it's a code error, not the data error, it's a code error. I have made the mistake somewhere which does not satisfy the testing people test cases. Then in such a case, what kind of the steps you will take place to work on this version? So the question is clear, right?
Yeah, means you need to take out version 3, right?
Yes, because the third version is the one, because I cannot work on fifth version
Okay.
because the fifth version has requirement 2 also. Without getting approval for the requirement 2,
Yeah.
on top of this, I cannot give a fix for the QAT testing. I can log the fifth version object and do the changes for the ticket, whatever they have raised, and check in the code so that sixth version will get happen in the dev EME, and sixth version I cannot send it because it contains even the requirement 2 as well. So without approvals, we should not do that. So I need to make changes on top of requirement 1, not on the requirement 2. I should not send the requirement 2. So what steps you will take this? Again, this is one of the interview question. Roughly, the question is clear for you?
Yes, Venkat, I'm just thinking.
Okay.
Venkat, while storing in EME,
Pardon?
version numbers will maintain, right?
Pardon, what is that?
Version numbers
Where?
in EME.
Yes, the version numbers will be there.
So is there any option to find out the version numbers here?
But whenever you are sending the object to the other environment, the version numbers will be different. Just for
No,
better
no, no, not
understanding,
for the
I'm
object.
giving 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But the version numbers will be
Do
different.
we have any timestamp or date on any of those versions apart from the version numbers?
Timestamp on the date. Mm, I need to check. We have not worked that much time on this object.
Because
There may
what
be,
happens is
yeah, yeah.
no, what happens is in Informatica we usually have the date and the timestamp. So based on that, we actually check which is the latest version and in which environment.
Okay. So let's I have given very simple case. When you point it with the dates, let's say on the same date, I have checked it couple of times, and I'm not sure which on the same dated which version of the file I sent it. So even this could be the possibility.
Oh. Hmm.
But for the first case, maybe yes. If there is only one version with the dates, we can do that. But just to make it generic,
So you said there will be or there won't be any time and date.
there will be a date. But still, I don't think so. We will follow this
Okay.
mechanism.
Okay.
Pankaj, how will you send the code in your project? How are you sending the code from dev to any of the test environments or production environments?
Actually, Venkat, we don't use this EME. We
Okay.
maintain SVN repository.
Okay, okay, okay. Different version mechanism you going ahead. Okay, okay, then fine.
That is separate repository.
Okay, okay, fine, fine. Then no issues. So, and one more thing, I can give you the
Did you
information
say SV?
before closing the session. Think it of how can you do this. So we will be migrating the code in Abinitio using tags. Just wanted to give a small clue to find out the information. If you can do, we will discuss tomorrow. First, we will get the information, and based on
Your
that,
voice is breaking, Venkat. I don't hear anything.
oh, I think some audio quality issues.
Hello.
Hello.
Venkat, can you repeat it again?
Okay, so in Abinitio, the code will be migrated from one environment to the other environment using tags. So here we have a concept of tags. So using these tags, we will migrate the code from dev to test, test to pre-production, and pre-production to production environments. So just think it of using these tags. How can you resolve this situation? We will discuss the solution tomorrow. Is it fine?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, fine. Yeah. Thank you.
thank you.